This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Welcome to the Monday Night Raw review, everybody. On this 22nd day of October 2024, there is a new Intercontinental Champion, and many of us, although not all, did suspect that this was going to be the case, given what happened on SmackDown, the kind of setup for the bloodline interference, and which would lead to the next step of Jay rejoining Jimmy and Roman, and that's exactly what we got. We got an interference, although kind of a hesitation interference with Solo and Tama Tonga and Tangaloa and Jacob Fatu. No Roman, but with that crew, I mean, Jay was the one who was kind of the aggressor. He was doing the usual, what are you doing here? I told you I got this. And he's the one that actually initiated the physical attack on, I think it was Tama Tonga, and that's when things went south. And Braun Breaker is your new Intercontinental Champion after, what, a 27-day reign with Jey Uso as Intercontinental Champion. So I have mixed feelings about this. When Jey won the championship, it surprised me because I had figured they're not going to do anything that's going to be long-term for Jey. And then when they finally do give him a title run, it'll be something of significance and length. And they took a different approach and used the Intercontinental Championship as a vehicle to further the Jey reuniting with the Bloodline story. And while I understand that, I understand the reason for it, having him have a 1-month reign as Intercontinental Champion is a bit disappointing, to say the very least. And again, I understand why they did it. They're making this jumping ship of Jey to the Bloodline make sense. He's pushed over the edge, and Solo's crew has done him dirty. And that's what's going to happen, and that's what should happen. I'm just having a bit of mixed feelings, and it's, again, not really necessarily a complaint, more of just I feel mixed on it, that Jay's first run with a singles championship in WWE was nothing more than a mirage being used to once again further a Bloodline story when he was just getting going as a singles star. And WWE clearly values this reuniting of the Bloodline over Jay's storyline as a single star currently, which once again is not necessarily a bad thing. Because if you're in that position, if you are in charge of creative, wouldn't the Bloodline story kind of supersede all? I mean, you're having The Rock dipping in now again, although he kind of waved and then left again. So Jay's being sacrificed here for the quote unquote greater good of rejoining the Bloodline. Now the question becomes, since he has lost the belt, twofold. One, how long does this reuniting last? Is it just Survivor Series for the War Games? Is it beyond that? Also, how does WWE, or do they at all, address the fact that there's a brand split and Jay just comes over from Raw? Do they say it's a temporary visitation right that he has? Do they not address it at all? Which I'm kind of leaning towards. They just don't address those things, even with Triple H in charge. And many of you don't even care. Many of you don't care. I do. I still will. Or do they have an official trade? Maybe it's a full-on trade, which it very well could be as well. Again, I'm leaning more towards WWE just simply not acknowledging a dang thing. But all right, well, let's get on to some other good stuff here. Welcoming a brand new Patreon member, JP, welcome to Patreon. And this is well, let me take a stab. Chef Oak Cliff. So Chef, I'll just call you Chef. Welcome and thank you for joining us on Patreon. So thank you, Chef. Thank you, JP, for joining us. And I hope you enjoy all of your ad-free content and exclusive shows. Of course, if you're in the NXT Plus and above, you do get exclusive shows. So, all right, let's continue on here. We'll dive a little bit more into the Intercontinental title match that took place at the end of Raw a little bit later. But the other thing that I wanted to bring up, and one that I didn't see coming, Samantha Irvin, as we all know now, I'm not breaking any news, has left WWE on good terms, seems like. No ill will on either side. It seems as if she's pursuing other things in her life. Don't know what those are. Maybe she'll take a Kayla Braxton approach and she'll just leave, post a bunch of crap on Instagram, maybe start her own podcast. That's maybe what she does. Obviously very talented. Was a massive contributor to Raw. Enjoyable. One of the most fan favorite announcers of all time, including up there with the Fink, Tony Chimmel. So I think that she has more than etched her legacy in WWE. Even more so, and I say this with kind of a backhanded compliment to Ricochet, she was more over in WWE than Ricochet was, and she didn't even take a bump. That's a fact. So that just goes to show you, when you have that organic connection with fans, there's something that you just have to have in order to manifest that creation or that connection. And she had it, and it was just an organic love that the fans had for her. And she'll be missed. Maybe she'll come back. But guess what? For those of you wishing for yesteryear, guess who's back? As again, I'm not breaking any news, being dramatic for no reason, but Lillian Garcia is back with WWE, I think, on a full-time basis. On a full-time basis for Monday Night Raw, doing the announcing. Didn't see that coming. Did anybody? I certainly didn't. So it's awesome to hear Lillian Garcia back. She also is a fan favorite. Fans, definitely have fond memories of her. And now Samantha Irvin, who, again, you look at her career over the last couple of years, especially, fans really gravitated to her. And again, very unusual for an announcer, which is often an overlooked, underappreciated role in WWE. Almost an invisible role at times, just like the referee. And you're wondering, okay, she has this great connection with the fans that doesn't happen often for announcers. And she is on a roll. She's clearly, in a great spot with the company. What does she have on the table that's better than that right now? I don't think she has any interest in getting in the ring. So I'm wondering, it's going to be interesting to see what she left the company for. Maybe, and again, it could just be starting a family. Maybe her and Ricochet. Who knows? It could be as simple as that. It doesn't necessarily need to be something professionally that she's doing. It could be something personally. Maybe she just wanted time away. But very few people step away from a career that seemingly, again, on the surface, she loved and has a great rapport with the fans and all the rest, that they just walk away at that age. So assuming she has something else up her sleeve, it's going to be very interesting to see what that is. So, best of luck to Samantha Irvin, obviously. And it's great to see Lillian back. No ill will, just kind of a, whoa, okay, I guess this is happening kind of moment. And I'm sure we'll see Samantha Irvin again. Fans are definitely, I'm sure, going to follow her wherever she goes in her professional career. So, all right. So Lillian Garcia is back. What else is going on Raw? We had a interesting development here in the Wyatt Sicks. And the Wyatt Sicks have, I got to be honest, and you're going to lie. If you are disagreeing with this, I think you're lying. And it's not because I'm saying, I'm always right. But let's be honest, the Wyatt Sicks for the last month has been kind of not missed, at least by most. I'm not saying they're a bad group. I'm not saying I don't like them. I'm not saying they won't be successful. But I've kind of felt like, oh, they're not on Raw. Oh, okay, sure, whatever. Like, I felt kind of indifferent that they're not there, and oftentimes not even remembered that they aren't on the show. Now, maybe it's because I don't watch every minute of everything like some people do, and maybe you're a little bit more deeply connected to the product than I am, so maybe it's more of a referendum on me. But I've, over the last several weeks, gone, even a show or two going, not even thinking about them. So they've been taking a backseat role for a while after their American-made rivalry with Chad Gable that came to an end definitively. And now they're back in a somewhat prominent position here, and they attack the Final Testament. And I'm sure the Final Testament are like, oh my God, thank God. Wow, we have something to do on the show. And they, while Xavier was not interested in helping R-Truth, we had the Wyatt Sicks help. Now, this was after a match between Kofi and Woods versus AOP, Akam and Razor, in a first round tournament match for a shot at the world tag titles. And this ended with Kingston and Xavier beating AOP to advance. And after, that's when Truth raised the arms of Kingston and Woods, who exited. Truth stood on the ropes, and the Final Testament were in the ring with The Miz. They all attacked Truth. Kingston wanted to go down, and that's when Woods held him back. Again, continuing the eventual full turn for Woods, which I'm looking forward to very soon. And that's when the Wyatt Sicks music hit. And Nikki Cross was on the top rope when the lights came back on. She dove onto Scarlett, Eric Rowan, Dexter Lumis, Joe Gacy, all there. They cleared the ring of the Final Testament with The Miz on all fours, and the Wyatt Sicks, The Miz stood up. He was smiling because he seemingly avoided getting his ass handed to him, and that's when Uncle Howdy showed up behind him. But Ellering saved The Miz, and Howdy put Ellering in a mandible claw, which was fine. And I think, again, with The Miz being back to being a heel, which is where he should be, I think he could be a real asset to the Final Testament, a mouthpiece. Now, carrying Cross on his own is, I think, undervalued as a mouthpiece because he can cut really good promos. We've seen it before. They just can't find a formula with him that they want to stick with. But The Miz joining this group, maybe in an unofficial capacity, is a lot of fun because The Miz in this role, I think, is much more entertaining. And having him dodge an ass kicking because of Paul Ellering is fun because now you're wanting to see the Wyatt Sicks, particularly Uncle Howdy, get his hands on The Miz because he dodged it twice. So this is good stuff here. Also, the first time I think that Paul Ellering has done anything of significance too, which is kind of shocking. Alrighty, so we had a weird thing happen on the show, and people are losing their minds over it. And it's the Carlito comment that is blowing up the internet, that in any other time and place in our history would be forgotten, like yesterday's newspaper, all right? Or yesterday's news cycle, right? Because we all pay attention to something for 5.5 seconds and then it's on to the next because we all have the memory of goldfish. We're constantly bombarded with information, which is why the news cycle doesn't last long. We're always looking for the next thing, big thing. So this will blow over sooner than later. I mean, it just will because that's the nature of human beings in 2024. But the comment, if we're going to talk about it while it's relevant right now, was Carlito after having Kairi Sane and Sky talking to Adam Pearce backstage, and they were talking to each other in Chinese. And after they were going off camera and they're talking to each other in Chinese and they fade off into the distance and you hear them still talking in Chinese, you have Carlito say kind of funnily, I need to learn Chinese. That's it. That's the whole thing. That's the whole scandal. The whole scandal is Carlito said he wants to learn how to speak Chinese. That's it. No, there's no extra clip. There's no extra. That's the whole thing. So why is this so scandalous? Well, on the surface, you'd say, I don't know, this is ridiculous. But when you dig into some of what today's culture is, I'm guessing it's some kind of combination of sexism, misogyny, maybe throw a little transphobia in there for good measure, and mansplaining. I mean, something along those lines that have really absolutely nothing to do with this comment. If you break it down, Carlito was simply saying, I need to learn Chinese for a couple of reasons. He wants to understand what they're saying, of which most of us probably wish we could too. Or, in the most nefarious of assumptions, he was trying to maybe, learn what they're saying so he could start to chat with them. Maybe he's interested in them romantically. It's possible. So what? Wouldn't that be a good thing? That you want to learn another language so you can learn that woman's language so that you can communicate with her in her natural tongue? No? Yes, no? I mean, so I just don't see what the whole controversy is outside of the culture and just being a reflection of today's culture. I don't get it. I don't care if it was scripted or not. It doesn't have any bearing to me on what this means. So you want to learn Chinese? Cool. All right. I mean, would the same thing have been said if they were speaking Japanese? Is there something with specifically Chinese? Like, I don't get it. If I'm missing something, somebody please let me know, because I'm not getting it. I'm not getting the uproar of this. So either send me the mailbag email on the mailbag, which is, by the way, mailbag@wwepodcast.com, or you can send me a message on X at wrestling_audio, or search the WWE podcast on X. By the way, there is unfortunately an account on X it's at the WWE podcast. That's not me. Unfortunately. And the guy hasn't been active in like 6 years, 7 years even. I mean, they should deactivate that account. It's annoying. Anyway, so that's the whole controversy with Carlito. To me, it's a total non-story. As people say, it's a total nothing burger. But Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez with Dom did take on Io Sky and Kairi Sane. And this ended with Liv and Raquel to an apparent no contest. They fought Io Sky and Kairi Sane to an apparent no contest because we had Sky dropkick Morgan to the barricade. Sky then pulled Jackson over the barricade. Legend drilled Sky with a forearm, and the referee called for the bell. So no contest. No result. Nobody got the win. Nobody got the loss. We'll probably get this match again next week to determine a winner, I would imagine. And what's on the line here? I mean, I don't know, but it could be somebody who is in contention for the women's tag titles. Maybe that's what this is about. Maybe did Wade Barrett allude to that in the match? He might have, but that's probably what's on the line here. Is the winner would be then in contention for a women's tag title shot. But I have to say, anybody that's just existing as a tag team in the women's division is automatically considered, given the incredible lack of depth of the women's tag team division. Simply by existing, you earn a shot. So there is that too. But all right. We then had, after the match, Morgan and Rodriguez confront Legend and Jackson, but Rhea Ripley's music hits. She comes out. Legend and Jackson exit the ring. Rodriguez said that she'd take care of things. Ripley headbutts Rodriguez. Completely no-sold it, by the way, which is weird. But Ripley then sent Rodriguez to ringside and got her hands on Morgan. Ripley hit Morgan with a knee strike, put her in a prism lock, and Ripley released the hold to dropkick Rodriguez off the apron. And Morgan set up for a move on Ripley, who escaped, dropped her with a headbutt, and then Ripley set up for Riptide, but Dom showed up at the right time, pulled Morgan to the ringside, and Ripley then got her hands on Dom, put him in a prism lock until Morgan and Rodriguez finally pulled him to safety. So Ripley unable to hit any finishes, but using the prism lock as kind of her signature move, but unable to hit the riptide on either Dom or Morgan. Weird, but we're still doing this, I guess, and I would still think that this goes through Survivor Series. I mean, we probably have another month of this. So if you're getting tired of it, I'm not quite there yet. There's still more to tell. I mean, the big payoff is Ripley hitting Riptide on Dom and on Liv and maybe trying to reclaim her women's championship. I still think she shouldn't reclaim it. Her, general rule of thumb, baby faces in chase mode are much more entertaining. I mean, if you need a better example of that, just look at Cody Rhodes's run here. It seems so flat. And it's hard for me to take my bias against him away of just totally disliking his babyface character, but I don't know. I don't get excited about seeing him in matches. His character is just it's not doing much. I mean, regardless of whether I like it or not, or putting my dislike for him aside, does it feel like he's really even doing much? He has this little squabble, this little side thing with KO that'll result in a fun little program, but it doesn't feel like he's really doing a ton. And it's been like that for a while. He feels like he's just floating along as champion. Now, yes, he's defended it a crazy amount of times, and including live events, which is not going to change hands there. But I don't know. I don't think this is a bad title run. It just feels flat, and that's the only way I can describe it. But anyway, on to something other than Cody, because Cody was not on the show. But we had, let's see here, Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee versus Julius Creed and Brutus Creed in a first-round tournament for a shot at the World Tag Team titles. This ended with Rey and Dragon Lee beating the Creed brothers, and it ended with Rey getting Julius back in the ring, hitting the 619. We had Dragon Lee tag in, hit a top rope frog splash, got the 3 count, and Rey and Dragon Lee are moving on. Kind of weird. It is a little weird, and maybe it's to further the Xavier deal. And I think that's probably the bigger picture here now, because Julius and Brutus Creed, who are in American Made, are just starting to really, for the first time in their career, grab onto something and see where it takes them. Am I suggesting they should win the world tag titles? No, not yet. But to have them lose and be eliminated in the first round of the tournament it tells you there's clearly a bigger plan here with Rey and Dragon, which again is fine. It's fine. It's just usually when you have a team that's up and coming rather than a more established team, especially veterans like Dragon Lee and especially Rey, the Creed brothers need more of a boost here than do those two. But I guess there's a bigger means to an end for those two. All right. So we then had a graphic listed with Dragon Lee versus New Day and Xavier Woods versus the War Raiders in a world tag title shot for next week's show. So again, I still think that the Creed brothers should be in this, but the bigger picture, the bigger goal here, clearly, by having Rey and Dragon Lee in this match, is to continue to further Xavier Woods as the heel turn, solidifies itself and locks in. We're getting very close. Also in the match, it would be kind of heel heavy, so you need a babyface team to, I guess, balance things out a little bit. And Xavier and Kofi, I guess, is still babyface, but Xavier is in transition. All right, so We then have Braun Breaker interviewed by Jackie Redmond. He said he respects Uso, but he isn't focused because of his family drama. And Breaker said he would take the title back. He said he's a badass, and it was time to do what badasses do. And asked if there were any dogs in Philly, and fans barked. And again, heels don't do this, man. You don't ask for a crowd reaction. It's weird. Breaker is a heel, but maybe the definition of heel is just being muddied, like the definition of everything nowadays. Nothing's clear anymore. There's no good and evil. Everything's just gray and ambiguous. But like, I don't know. If I'm a heel, and if I ever went into wrestling, I have to say, I would much rather be a heel in a wrestling environment than a babyface. Number one, it's easier. From the respect of being able to just go out there and do whatever you want. In a babyface role, you're kind of boxed in with what you can do, what you can say. As a heel, you can do kind of whatever you want as long as it's not something purposefully trying to get the crowd to cheer you. And this is one of those things that's getting the crowd to interact with you and connect with you. So what are heels doing? Hey, it's like asking for a sing-along with the crowd. You don't do that as a heel. But fine, whatever. All right, not the biggest deal in the world. Gunther was interviewed then by Kathy Kelly, and Gunther said Cody Rhodes, drags his family into things. It was unnecessary for him to mention his daughter. And Damian Priest comes in. He said that he handled business with the Judgment Day, and now he wants his title back. He said he would earn it, though, just like he earns everything else. And Priest told Gunther to handle his business at Crown Jewel, and then he'd have a big problem waiting for him. So that's interesting to me, because my prediction was upon Punk concluding with his match at Hell in a Cell with Drew, that his next target would be Gunther. But if they're going with Priest and Gunther, I don't hate that at all. I actually missed Priest in a weird way as champion. And now, don't get me wrong, Gunther as champion is just the right choice. It's just the right choice. But Priest exceeded many of our expectations. Many of them. I mean, you can't tell me that we all didn't look at Priest as a transitional champion. We all did. And the company knew it. Yet how many times, time after time, for several months, they kept the belt on him and kept the belt on him and kept the belt on him, where people like myself, idiots, fell for it and said, he's going to lose it. Nope. Nope. And only when Finn Balor screwed him did he finally drop the belt. Now, does Priest take the belt back from Gunther? The answer is hell no. But where does Punk fit into this? Does he go right into a program with Seth Rollins? I know he's working with Braun Breaker right now, and we'll talk about that next. But it does lead me to wonder where they're exactly going with the world title situation after Crown Jewel in a completely wasted matchup here for a title that means nothing, as I've said. So, I mean, we'll see. All right. So, I forgot to even mention, I'm not going in order very well today. All right, but at the beginning of the show, we had Seth Rollins and Bronson Reed brawl. And Seth did attack Bronson Reed from behind. Interesting that you have that. And I guess he's justified giving that in story. Bronson Reed tried to end the career of Seth. So fine, sure, let it go. And they ended up brawling. Brawling through crates and brawling out to the ring and the announce table and all the rest. And it's, I guess, the Bronson Reed formula. I mean, Bronson Reed just can't have a regular wrestling match. Everything has to be demolished. Everything must be. I mean, I don't mind that formula every once in a while. But at some point, can we just get a regular Bronson Reed match? I'm not saying boring, looks like everything else, but I mean, most of Bronson Reed's matches, if you want to call it that, have been backstage, destroying cars, destroying, scaffolding, whatever they're using as the weapon, tables. And And sure, the violence is fun, but it's a page right out of the Braun Strowman Bronson Reed matchup that was highly entertaining. By the way, highly entertaining. If those two ever want to get back together and work together, I'd sign me up. But Seth Rollins and Bronson Reed ended up brawling, and I'm fine with this. I just don't know, again, what kind of match they're going to have. It seems like every Bronson Reed match can't just be a regular match. It's automatically like no DQ. I don't know. But this is really, really good for Bronson Reed. Win, lose, or draw, Bronson Reed has arrived. And he really did in a big way, unexpectedly, with Braun Strowman. Oh, again, those two had a hell of a chemistry together. And just I didn't think I'd enjoy it as much as I did. But now you're working with top tier talent. And sure, Bronson Reed isn't going to win yet a title. And I don't think he's going to beat Seth Rollins clean yet. Because they have big plans for Seth. Likely with CM Punk at WrestleMania. So right now, Bronson Reed is in a position that he's getting more eyeballs on him than he ever has in his entire career. He's in a great spot. Bronson Reed is a star on the rise. And you do wonder, though, what's the current path? Are they looking at him as a potential world title holder in the next 12 months? Maybe. I would say this. I think right now his ceiling is a Final Four competitor in the Royal Rumble. I think he's earned that. Do I think he's going to win? Of course not. He's not ready for that yet. Characters aren't ready for that yet. The crowd, I don't think, is quite there yet with him. Bigger stories to tell. But if you make him a Final Four in the Royal Rumble, people do remember Final Fours. People do remember Final Fours, and at least the Final Two especially. And I think that would help also boost his career. Give him that feeling of he's about to break out, but he's not going to do it yet. But he's about to. And 2025 is probably a big year for Bronson Reed. So he's a big, thick guy. He's just thick. I mean, the dude is a horse. And he is a destruction machine. Seeing things be broken all the time is fun. I don't mind that. I like seeing things get destroyed like many of us do. But at some point, you're going to have him in a wrestling match and not every match be, bringing down the house and the rings being destroyed and all the rest of it. So you're going to have a regular wrestling match with Bronson Reed and also maybe improve his promos a little bit. He does need to polish that up, tighten that up, and get deeper with his character. And maybe for Bronson himself, figure out who and what he is, and he can't get comfortable. Of course, I'm preaching to the choir, but I'm just excited for where Bronson Reed's going to go, and he's arrived. He just has. And he's working with Seth. Seth will probably beat him, but he'll move on. And this can do nothing but help Bronson Reed win, lose, or draw. Alrighty. And then in the main event, of course, we had Jay and Braun Breaker, which I talked about at the beginning of the show. And the match is just really good. I know that some people, it was a little clunky. I don't think it was. I think it was smooth enough to be considered a main event. I could do without the stat of always hearing that he can run the ropes at 23 miles an hour. It is insanely impressive. I understand that. He does run the ropes at freakishly high speed. I do understand that. And the dude is probably, I shouldn't say probably, is a legitimate badass. I mean, I wouldn't want to get in a fight with him. Hell no. The dude is a monster. And he's got that explosive power to him. Braun Breaker is a legit badass dude. I mean, not just in practice, in execution, not just on TV. I think he really is. And he's starting to kind of find himself too. He's on the Bronson Reed level where, sure, Bronson hasn't held an Intercontinental title yet, but still, they're on that level of both are ascending stars, both are young guys, occasionally in the main event. And Braun Breaker here, as I talked about at the beginning of the show, as we all know, won the IC title back. And that's fine with me. I didn't understand why they dropped it to Jay in the first place. I mean, we know the answer now. We could debate whether it was worth it or if it was his first title run was wasted or it was just that Intercontinental title was being used simply as a prop to turn the page on the next chapter of the Bloodline story, because everything revolves around Bloodline story. What's the Bloodline? And it sometimes does get exhausting. Even if the storytelling is good, it becomes a little bit saturated, a little bit of overexposure. And I do wonder how long Jay's going to linger around with the Bloodline. I wouldn't do it too much, because Jay has done an awesome job, and Creative has done an awesome job of getting him to the point of actually living up to what he calls himself, Main Event Jey Uso. He does feel like he could easily be the main event. He does. He's got the crowd behind him. He has that connection. He has been viewed as a single star. He's not just, he's that brother. He's one of the twins, and that's important. That's important when you're a tag team for as long as the Usos were a tag team, and then he's with the Bloodline for as long as he was with the Bloodline, years and years and years combined. It's difficult to get the crowd to get behind you as a single star. It can be anyway. But with Jay, I think the Bloodline stuff for him allowed him to grow as a character. He wasn't just one of the Usos having badass matches with the New Day or whoever. And some of those matches are underrated, I think. But he's a guy that you could see being truly what he says he is, being a main event. And he is. And he was, and he will be again, despite the fact that he lost the belt. So, I'm not worried about Jay's career. I'm not being over dramatic in that way. This has nothing to do, I think, long term for his success or failure. Just in the short term, in the now, since we're living in the now, it is a bit disappointing, but you also understand that you have to do this as a wrestling company. I mean, you have to sometimes, you sometimes have to make sacrifices and understand that, okay, yeah, fans aren't going to like this. We are kind of using the IC belt as a prop to get Jay to the reuniting stage with the Bloodline, but the Bloodline story is going to be this, and it's going to be that. It's going to be the main event for Survivor Series. It's also going to be attached to The Rock and what The Rock does and this and that. So there is a reason for their madness, and that is clearly why they're doing this. And I don't have any objections. It just, if you look at it in a vacuum and you just look at the Jay win just to lose prism, it is a bit disappointing. And you could look at it that way. He won just so he could lose. That's what that was about. He beat Braun Breaker a month ago just so he could lose it back to him when the Bloodline were going to screw him so he could rejoin the OG Bloodline and have a real reason to do so now. So sure, I mean, many of you are not happy, but you have to look at it through both sides and understand if you're a wrestling company, and you're, well, they wouldn't call themselves that. They're an entertainment company who uses wrestling as their form of entertainment. But I understand it. So, all right. So that was Monday Night Raw, guys. Had a big return in Lillian Garcia. We had a new Intercontinental Champion and a long match, by the way. That match was like 20 minutes. That's a long match by today's standards. A nice brawl between Reed and Seth Rollins that's heating up. We had no mention of Drew, by the way. Drew McIntyre. He was on was he on Chris Van Vliet's show recently? I think he might have been. But you notice Drew McIntyre's MIA. That's fine. That is fine with me. I said it before the Hell in a Cell match. I'm cool if both Punk and Drew take a month and a half to 2 months off. They deserve it. It refreshes both characters, particularly Drew, who needs a little time off. Because when he comes back, I think he's going to be a main event player instantly. And he could be coming for Gunther. What about Drew? Here's a question. I'll pose this to the listening audience, as opposed to the non-listening audience. It makes no sense, right? Anyway, I would pose this question. Drew McIntyre, upon his return, what does he do? Where does he go? Does he jump right into the world title picture? Does he take a side? Does he return as a babyface? Does he keep the heel character? I hope he does. Where does Drew go? Maybe we don't see him till the Rumble. I doubt it, but just some thoughts here. What do we do with Drew? That's a heck of a question. And is there really something bad you could do with Drew? Drew is so damn good. And so, here's the best way to describe Drew McIntyre in one word. Polished. Polished. There's no rough edges on this guy. He knows who and what he is. He looks the part. He's a big, tall, larger-than-life guy. Confidence. Has found the other side of his persona that arguably is more successful than his babyface side. And never gets the company in trouble. Never makes the company look bad. He's a pro's pro that is a polished performer that you also can't see through his work. He's excellent on the mic. Always has great matches. He is a hell of an asset for that company. So is he missed on Raw? Yes. But well-deserved time off. And it makes you wonder who he's going to work with next. Does he return a Crown Jewel? He could return a Crown Jewel. I don't think he's injured. So just want to pose that to you guys. Lots of options here. One final thing, and this is regarding the comment on Carlito that I opened the show with. This is something that, again, I find it ridiculous, but it's now become a big story. And Wrestling Inc., I want to reference their column here. Here's what they say, and I do like Wrestling Inc., but it highlights the culture we're in, guys. So it says this, quote, "Those who tuned in to last night's episode of Raw ended up witnessing a controversial moment involving Carlito. Following a meeting between Adam Pearce and Damage Control members Io Sky and Kairi Sane, Carlito could be seen entering the office with a remark that referred to Sky and Sane, two Japanese women, as Chinese. The line drew the ire of many fans and at least one wrestler and independent star, Kevin Koo, who felt Carlito's line came across as casual racism." Okay, casual racism. Okay, so maybe I'm getting a little more clear on what the actual issue is. Again, still doesn't make this any more palatable or believable. I mean, these are people who are just trying to stir up controversy or are offended on behalf of someone else, which is always just ridiculous to see. Let me just say this. Okay, let's go with the premise that Carlito was in the most malicious of ways, the most malicious scenario, more than even what I mentioned before, that he's actually romantically involved with or interested in these two, that he called them Chinese knowing that they're Japanese. Okay, let's just take that, okay? Even though I don't think that's the case. This is the most dark scenario that they can come up with, right? First of all, if Kevin, who's this dude, Kevin Koo, Kevin K.U., on the independent star scene, is saying that this is casual racism. Okay, let me just look up what racism means, because a lot of times the definition of it today gets skewed to just, I'm going to call you this because you're saying things I don't like. So here's what it means. Okay, it means this: prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism by an individual, community, or institution against a person or people on the basis of their membership in a particular racial or ethnic group, typically one that is minority or marginalized. It's the belief that different races possess different distinct characteristics, abilities, or qualities, especially so as to distinguish them as inferior or superior to one another. Okay, so let me just ask this to those that think it's racist, that Carlito said that he needs to learn Chinese when they're Japanese. How exactly does that infer that he is saying that Japanese people, Japanese culture largely are inferior to Chinese, or he just assumed they were Chinese even though they're Japanese. Somebody explain this to me, that it's casual racism. Someone explain this to me. I still am having issues here. Because, you knew there had to be an ism attached to this whole accusation. And I think it will blow over quickly. If anybody wants to know, by the way, the difference between Chinese and Japanese in terms of language, culture, food, and writing. I know I'm going into like history here, but it's important here because people just say words and we're all supposed to be scared of them. And now we're seeing it bleed into WWE TV. When it comes to my front door, I'm going to comment on it. Okay, I know it. I don't go out and seek this and try to pull it into my show with stuff that has nothing to do with wrestling. This is more culturally wide of an issue, but it got brought into wrestling. So I'm going to comment on it because I know some of you are like, oh, keep that out of the show. Well, it got pulled into the show. So I'm going to talk about it if it's on the show. So here's just some things different culturally. Okay. Culturally, the differences are Japanese people tend to be more religious than Chinese people. Following Buddhism and Shinto beliefs, Japanese people are also known for being polite and self-disciplined. Doesn't mean Chinese people can't, but Japanese people culturally are known to be more polite and self-disciplined. Okay. In terms of writing, Japanese is written in a mixture of 3 scripts, kanji, katanga. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, but they've got 3 scripts, and kanji are Chinese ideographic symbols. Anyway, they have different writing systems. I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to bore you. And food-wise, how about this, a little fun factoid? Food-wise, Chinese is often more spicy and fried. Duh. If anybody ordered Chinese food from their local, King's Walk down the road. Japanese food is known for serving fresh and raw ingredients like seafood, and Chinese food is often prepared in a wok with vegetable or sesame oil, while Japanese food is prepared with less oil. So, generally, Japanese food seems to be more healthy. Okay, so we've got Japanese people are seemingly more polite and self-disciplined. Japanese people like to eat generally a little bit healthier. And they have different writing systems. So calling somebody Chinese, I'm sorry, what is that again? It's casual racism. And that's assuming that Carlito was using the most nefarious of motivations. Trying to insult them, which of course he was not. But taking that all the way to its conclusion, all the way to the end of the road, that those of us who are trying to accuse Carlito of racism are doing, then we're taking it there and it still doesn't add up. Not even close. There's no racism here. It is a nothing burger. And if I were Carlito, I would tell people to just go F off. Yeah, I'd be like, yeah, listen, yeah, sure. Whatever. Just, yeah, whatever. Moving on. That's what I would do. It'll blow over quick because people have no attention span today. And there shouldn't be any attention paid to this anyway, but the internet's having a meltdown over it. It doesn't matter to me if this was in Raw's script or not. I don't care. This is nothing. It's nothing. So, all right. So anyway, I'll leave it there. I hope everyone has enjoyed the show. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. But if you have, I really would appreciate a 5-star review on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts. Both do really help. And we'll be back. Tomorrow will be what the heck's tomorrow? Tomorrow's Wednesday, right? So NXT show tomorrow. So maybe late tomorrow we'll get the NXT up. Back with some more After Dark stuff. And then the mailbag that comes to you on Fridays. You'll be not wanting to miss that. So check that out. And then you can go ad free at Patreon and get all of your audio with no interruptions. Totally ad free on Patreon or on Apple Podcasts. Which, by the way, one last thing. I contacted Apple about the issues on Apple with the subscribers. They're telling me to tell you to reach out to them with information. Give them the feed. Tell them what's going on because they're saying they don't see anything wrong. It's nothing on my end. It may be on yours. So, yeah. That's what Apple told me officially. To you contact support. So, we'll see how many people actually do that, which is exactly 0 people. No one's going to do that. No one has the time for that. I know. But, all right. Thanks, everybody. I'll talk to you next time, and take care.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.